British financial service providers lost their access to the EU internal market with Brexit. Now the EU and the UK are getting closer again on this issue. According to the government in London, the UK and the EU have agreed on the basic principles of voluntary cooperation in the regulation of financial services. Technical talks on a memorandum to supplement the Trade and Cooperation Agreement have now been concluded, the Treasury Department in the British capital said on Friday. A signature is still pending, but that could be done quickly. The agreement will create a forum for exchanging information on issues relating to the regulation of financial services. Services were not included in the negotiations on the Brexit Trade Pact. With the end of the Brexit transition phase at the turn of the year, British financial service providers lost their automatic access to the EU internal market. This did not lead to the feared great exodus from the City of London yet, but many banks and other companies founded branches in cities such as Paris, Dublin, Amsterdam, and Frankfurt. With them, about 7,000 jobs migrated. Mutual access for services will in future be regulated by what is known as equivalence provisions. This means that the other regulatory system is recognized as equivalent, if it is. However, the equivalence is not the subject of negotiations, but is granted unilaterally and can also be withdrawn at relatively short notice, 30 days, if the partners' rules change. However, the equivalence decision of the EU Commission are not expected in the foreseeable future. The service industry as a whole accounts for around 80% of UK GDP, that's the gross domestic product, and several European cities have benefited greatly from Britain's exit from the EU. But the race is far from over, and we will definitely see a lot of more discussions, even if there's a memorandum there. And another thing is also Brexit, that the boss of a Cheshire cheese firm has told of his despair over Brexit after an unexpected meeting with the environment minister resulted in advice to look at the US and Canada markets. Yeah, funny. Simon Spurrell, the co-founder of the Cheshire Cheese Company, was phoned out of the blue for an online meeting with Victoria Prentice after he embarked on a personal crusade involving nearly 100 media interviews in the UK and the EU about his post-Brexit plight. He says the past 3 months have been among the worst in his career, with a lucrative EU business brought to a halt because of the extra costs and paperwork caused by Brexit. Spurrell has been left with a £250,000 hole in his export trade with Europe, but said Prentice told him in a meeting on Tuesday there was nothing she could do to ease the barriers because the extra paperwork, including health certificates for each consignment of cheese, were mandatory under EU rules. Yeah, they are for third countries, but who choose to be a third country out of the internal market. Sales of his 25 to 30 pound pack of cheeses to individuals were growing, and he had planned a £1 million warehouse in Macclesfield to fulfill orders. But under the new rules, each parcel needs to be accompanied by a health certificate costing £180, making low-value sales unviable. The Environment Minister and her aides suggested he pursues business in emerging markets across the Atlantic, where different barriers apply, but he explained that the delivery costs were prohibitive. It was a fairly useless conversation as a whole, he said. We've had a flood of people offering anything from come to our town in Lithuania, Poland, France, Hungary, we'll help you set up, we've got the resources, to British in the EU saying, we've got a lockup, you can store your cheese here if you want, said Spurrell. They think there's an opportunity to get employment in their town, but that's exactly what the British government should be doing. Back home, he has been offered help from the Department for International Trade with emerging markets, but says what he wanted was help with salvaging EU business. Data released on Monday showed a dramatic collapse of exports of whiskey, cheese and chocolate to the EU in January. A spokesperson for DEFRA said Spurl's reflection of the meeting was different to theirs, and while the minister was unable to help him on the health certificate requirements, she highlighted our desire to help the Cheshire Cheese Company where possible. Yeah, but they made it impossible on its normal ways. The department also committed to sending him further information on possible trading solutions, including on groupage, that's multiple consignments per truck, which some dairy businesses are using to export products successfully. But Spurl said while they were trying to help, he saw no way of salvaging his consumer sales business in the EU. The last 3 months have been thoroughly unpleasant because of Brexit. It's been terrible. It's been one of the most stressful periods of my business life, he said. During the meeting, we were offered the full support of the government via the DIT and trade initiatives with Liz Truss, the trade secretary, and this was to help us to access the new emerging markets for the new trade deals being negotiated. This, as it stands, is our only positive way forwards to help us replace the lost revenue from the EU markets, he said. His story is emblematic of the experiences of many small businesses hit by extra paperwork. He said he was prepared for barriers on EU sales to his wholesale business, but there had been no warning there would be exemption for direct consumer sales as there is in the US and Canada. This came as an almighty shock, he said, like a rear end hit in a car accident because I wasn't expecting it. Asked if there was any chance of an exemption in the post-Brexit rules in the consumer business in the UK, he said Prentice replied, none. Yeah, and there she's right. But he said, I explained to her that my fundamental fear is that the large expense of setting up a mirrored operation in the EU could all be for nothing with the increasingly hostile environments between the two sides. One option was to send truckloads of cheese to France or another EU country and fulfill orders from there. But he has decided against that because even the paperwork for wholesale shipment of goods is so onerous that it will be a full-time job for the EU export sides of the business, adding even more costs. Yeah, but he will definitely have to live with that. And if he didn't know what was coming, he will have to blame his government for it, because everyone who wanted to know knew already in 2016 that this is exactly what's going to come with Brexit, because all this certificates and stuff is for every third country on this planet if they want to trade with the EU. These protections of the single market were set up with the help of the British government. And so his government could have told him the whole time since the referendum that this is what was coming. Nobody of a sound mind would have ever believed that the EU would drop that for a third country. They never did, they never will. And they also don't do this for the UK. And except you really believe in British exceptionalism, you knew that this was going to come. And it will stay. This will never go away. So he will have to find a way, and he will have to, if he wants to keep up his EU business, he will have to have a dependency in the EU and a warehouse there. Otherwise, this will not work. And then he has to listen to his ministers and look for deals or business in Canada and the US, for example. But for the EU, that will not change. There will be no exceptions. I'm pretty sure of that. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel. Auf Wiedersehen.